Hi, I'm Dr. Keith Nelson, board-certified, fellowship-trained orthopedic surgeon, and I want to restore your active, pain-free life. I've been an innovator in the treatment of knee pain caused by arthritis and sports injuries for 27 years. I'm the only surgeon in northern Utah to offer Omnibotics, a robotic-assisted knee replacement for your arthritic knee, which has a 97% patient satisfaction rate. Don't live with your knee pain another day. Visit drkeithnelsonortho.com. That's drkeithnelsonortho.com.
If you've recently moved into our community or are attending Utah State, on behalf of the Cache Valley Media Group, we welcome you. As you settle in, we encourage you to support our local businesses. In fact, pick up a free copy of the Best of Northern Utah magazine. Let it be your compass for discovering the best our community has to offer. From quaint bookstores to delicious bakeries, electricians to dentists, coffee shops to florists. These businesses were voted the very best in our community. Go to bestofnorthernutah.com for magazine pickup locations.
It's time for the Garden Guide with your host, Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden.
New research suggests that people are more likely to eat vegetables if they have a tempting name.
What would life be without homegrown tomatoes? Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes.
From gardening to landscaping.
Today we are going to try and create garden eyebrows. Kind of like the flowers are sprouting directly from your hair. That makes sense.
Phone lines are open at 753-KVNU or 800-369-KVNU.
Kind of like eating vegetables.
It's the Garden Guide, now on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
And we welcome you to the show on a beautiful, sunny, blue sky Saturday morning. Mark, we're back in on Saturdays, the way we were always enjoying to be. The last couple of weeks have been a little bit of a shift.
A little bit of disruption lately, but it's all right.
Yeah,
That's
and
the
it's
way it goes.
Definitely starting to feel like fall. Didn't quite have frost on the windshield this morning, but it's getting very, very close.
That little fog kind of crept into the middle of the valley, so driving down, it's like, ooh, that looks like fog.
Yeah, and over the next few days, I think we're going to start seeing temperatures just gradually get a little bit closer to freezing. So we've got a lot to talk about as people are kind of down into the final weeks of gardening. I was mentioning earlier before we went on the show, we thought our garden was pretty much over and done. We went out with a couple buckets this week, and all of a sudden we're like, wow, where are all these beans coming from? we're bottling beans.
Nice fall surprise.
Yeah,
nice fall surprise. Got all my squashes gathered in this week. So the hail, the first part of September, kind of decimated our garden. And so corn was all done. The squashes were not doing anything. Cucumbers were finished. The tomatoes were all beat up. So we just went and harvested everything, gleaned everything out. And then we just kind of gathered everything up and got a big green waste dumpster. So we called in a green waste dumpster and I just put everything in there. Yeah.
Send it off to the compost.
Yeah. And then we had some trees to take down, some branches here and there, and just some yard cleanup, and we filled a 30-yard dumpster.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, between the corn stalks and everything. And it's more stuff than I can compost at my place. And so we figured perfect time to send it to the green waste facility. So.
Well, and that storm that we had come through last Saturday night that, of course, knocked out power to some of Logan and other parts of the valley, I know that took down a lot of tree limbs around our neighborhood.
Yeah. So
a lot of people were cleaning up this last week.
It was really convenient to have that dumpster just put there right at the end of the garden, and we just started cleaning up all the plants, and then it all gets composted, doesn't go to the landfill. So that was like a perfect solution for us. But I was able to take out some suckers that had come up that had turned into trees, and took out a tree that really had been struggling that we needed to move somewhere else, and worked out really well. Yeah.
Well, there's a few things we can talk about. Watering, I think, is one. If you hadn't seen it, the Utah Department of Water Resources came out and said, if you have a sprinkler system, shut it off. There's no reason to be running sprinklers anymore. The only thing they said that you should still be watering is any freshly planted trees or shrubs.
Yes.
And they said, other than that, let everything else go dormant.
Yeah. And our soil moisture is really good because we've had all these big storms. So all through September and, first of October, we've had nice storms coming through, and it's really hydrated the soil up, and plants are doing really well. And I was out cleaning my garden, and the soil's just wet.
Still very wet. Yeah,
it's very wet. So we've turned our sprinklers off, and the only reason we would turn them back on is if we go dry for 3 weeks, But it's nice to have some soil moisture for bulbs when you're planting bulbs, and we can definitely talk bulbs as well today. But lawns are super saturated right now, and there's plenty of moisture out there. It's nice to keep some soil moisture for some of the larger trees so that when the ground freezes in November, then there's good soil moisture throughout the winter time as well too. A lot of times those poor trees and shrubs will suffer a little bit if there's not good soil moisture. But right now we have really good soil moisture, and the fall colors are just amazing.
Oh,
it's
aren't they?
So pretty.
Yeah.
What a difference a nice wet year makes in the color on the trees. So it's been gorgeous in the valley this year.
And if you don't do anything else this weekend, just head up into Sardine or Logan Canyon and enjoy the colors.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go up that high.
No.
Yesterday during my lunch hour, I thought I'm going to go up and I'm going to get away from the crowds, because you are going to, if you're down between First Dam and Third Dam, everybody
there's a lot
is
of
down
people up there.
And so I thought, well, I'm going to go up above. I went up into Card Canyon and did the little loop around Card Canyon. And actually, I was a little too high. Most of the leaves had already come down and fallen.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah. So if you stay down, and there will be a lot of people, but stay down right between First and Third Dam, you're just going to be amazed at the color.
Yeah, really, really pretty. So not too bad. A few things happening at Anderson's this weekend. Of course, it is homecoming weekend, and so we've got the homecoming parade. So just be aware that there'll be a few disruptions downtown for driving, but we are open at Anderson's, and we've got some gorgeous fall mums that are on sale. So we've got lots of colors, a great time to get those planted as well too. And all of our pumpkins are on sale. We had those at 59 cents a pound, and they are now 39 cents a pound. So a really good time to get pumpkins. We've got all kinds of different sizes and shapes and colors. So a great time to pick up some pumpkins. 39 cents a pound at Anderson's this weekend. And of course, cash sale continues. We've dropped everything down to 65% off if you pay with cash. So there's some really nice trees. I looked yesterday and it's like, man, there's like 4 really, really nice sycamore trees that I can't believe we still have right now at 65% off.
Oh, wow.
if you pay with cash. Yeah, so there's some really nice trees. There's a few shrubs. I've got some good fruit trees as well too. And of course, our recent fruit trees that just came in, they're not 65% off. They're just 25%. But everything else in the nursery is 65% off. So it's a really good time to come in and pick up a few additions for your yard. So not too bad.
Okay, so fall cash sale going on.
Yes.
And you mentioned that you had picked a lot of your squash. Maybe
Yes.
one of the first questions we can start off talking about is, what's the best way to prepare those squash to keep them through the winter months?
Yeah, absolutely. And so usually we like to wait until there's a first light frost, and then we pick after that. But if we're going to have a harder freeze, we're going to be down into the mid-20s, that could damage your squash. And so that at that point, it's a good time to bring those in. But here we are, first full week of October. It's a good time to harvest those squash anytime now. Usually we have a frost around the end of September, 1st of October, so they're pretty much ready to go. So what I did is I went out and I had a nice hand pruner with me, and I trimmed the squash off the vines so that there was about 2 inches, maybe 3 inches of stem left on the squashes, and I gently gathered those up and put them into a wheelbarrow, and then moved those to our barn, which is a nice, warm, dry location, and it's lit, but it's not got like sun right on the squash.
Mm-hmm.
So they're shaded, but there's light in there, so they're not in the dark. They're out where it's light, but where the sun's not shining on them. But it's dry. It's nice and fairly warm and dry. And what we're going to do is we're going to leave them there for about 4 weeks. So about the first or second week of November, it'll start getting cold enough that they could get damaged if we start to have some really cold temperatures at night. And so at that point, they should be cured, and they're going to have a nice hard outer wrapper skin on those squashes. And then at that point, we'll bring them into our storage location, which is cool and dry, and we'll store those for the winter time. So after the warm, dry location, they're going to go into dark, cool, and dry, and then they'll keep for months. So if you've got some nice, say some sweet meat squash or some butternut or Hubbard, those will keep for a really, really long time. So you could keep those until February or even March or sometimes even later. But some of the smaller squashes, they're the ones we'll start eating first. Anything that was like damaged, like if the hail had hit it and made some pock marks, which is what we kind of were dealing with this year, those are the ones we're going to eat first because those will not keep as well. The ones that have the intact skin that don't have any damage or scuffs or scrapes or anything, no bruises, those are the ones that are going to last the longest. And so we will keep those and get those to last the longest. But anything that's been damaged, that's why it's so important as you're gathering them up to be gentle with them wherever you're putting them, whether you're putting them in the wheelbarrow or you're taking them out of the wheelbarrow to put them in your storage location. Make sure you're gentle with them so that they don't get beat up, because any damages or scrapes or scuffs is going to cause them to not keep as well. And so we'll be gentle with those when we're transferring them from place to place. But after that month or 6 weeks of curing, then they're good to keep for months after that. Yeah, so not unusual for us to keep squashes into January, February. No problem. Yeah.
You just may need a chainsaw to be able to cut them open.
Exactly.
That's the one thing we've joked about in the past.
A hatchet.
But that's exactly what you want. If you've got a really thick rind outer coating, those will save for months.
And you can tell when they're ready to go into storage as well, too, because I'll take my thumbnail and I'll scrape the skin a little bit on them, and they should have a nice mature color. So, if it's a sweet meat squash, it should be kind of a grayish blue color. If it's a butternut squash, it should be a nice buckskin color. If you just kind of scrape them a little bit, if the rind's really hard and you can't scrape it, then it is ready to go. But if you kind of scrape it a little bit with your thumbnail and a little moisture bubbles up, then it could cure a little bit longer, and that'll be fine. We did the same thing with our onions and gathered those all up. They're also in that same location, warm and dry and kind of shaded right now. And then by the time the squashes are ready to probably be put into cold storage, we'll do the same thing with the onions. Okay. So we'll do those at the same time. And then the potatoes, we harvested all of our potatoes a couple of weeks ago too. Those just went straight into cold storage. They don't need any of that curing process or anything. Right. And we definitely don't want to keep them dry. Yeah, and we don't want the sun hitting those as well too, because if the sun hits the potatoes, then they are more likely to go green, and then they don't taste very good.
Yeah, that UV ruins them.
Yeah, they don't taste very good. So those are all in and ready for storage. And we actually got another half a bushel of tomatoes as we were kind of gathering things up. Oh. So yeah. I'd say 65% of our tomato crop got damaged with the hail.
With the hailstorm.
That much, yeah.
Mother Nature
they were
were
just absolutely loaded, and everything was ripening up and looking great. And Labor Day, I'm just going, oh man, we got so many tomatoes, we're not going to know what to do with them.
Yeah. Mother Nature knew what to do with them.
Just ruined them. Yeah, just ruined them. But I am getting a lot of apple samples in that people are bringing in to be identified. And so we've identified a couple really interesting apples this week. So yesterday I had a Fuji, which just magically appeared on my desk with a little note that said, "Please identify my apple." And I looked at it, and it's like, that really looks like a Fuji. And I cut it open. It's like, it smells like a Fuji. And then I ate it. And it's like, oh, it definitely is a Fuji. And it's not quite ripe yet. So that's perfect because Fujis aren't ready till about mid-October. So it was really close. But identified an Empire apple for someone this week, and false strawberry, and a couple other cool varieties. Yeah. So, yeah.
And some of those apples, we've always said leave them on until we get those first few days of frost, because that will really help sweeten them up.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things. We've got a Macintosh and a Golden Delicious, and we let those.
Yeah.
Those are still on the tree.
My Macintosh are done. Like, all the apples have fallen off. There's nothing left. Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing left. But my Golden Delicious, and we've got John of Gold that's just, it's been amazing. It's like so crispy and delicious right now. So I'm just kind of leaving them out there for a little bit more. But so much hail damage on all of our fruit. And I'm seeing lots of samples with the same thing where people are bringing them in. They're like, oh, there's all these marks all over the fruit. What's wrong with them? I was like, you got the hail that everybody got. And so the tops of all of my apples all have little pock marks on them, and so some look better than others, the ones that were underneath the branches and had a little bit of protection. But it's the way it goes.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's the way it
every
goes.
year. You just never know what Mother Nature's going to throw at us.
Yep. Phone lines are open if you'd like to join our conversation. We are taking calls this week. It's been a couple weeks that we have not been able to take calls, so we would love to have you join our conversation here on the Garden Guide between the Pumpkin Festival and the football game last week, and we had something else before that.
The week before that, we were kind of talking pumpkin growing with the pumpkin growers.
Yeah, that's right. We just have not had the opportunity for calls. So right now, we are here in studio and ready for your phone call. So give us a call, 753-5868, 753-KVNU, or 1-800-369-5868. We'd love to have you join us here on the Garden Guide.
Now, you mentioned bulbs right now on sale.
Bulbs not on sale, but they are all here. So we finally got like our big last shipment of bulbs. So I got a great selection of tulips, daffodils, hyacinths, crocus. We've got some allium. I think we sold out of our snowdrops yesterday, though. So people are buying bulbs like crazy to fill their yard up. And there's nothing better than bulbs that if you struggle growing things or you have a hard time keeping your flowers alive, bulbs are about as easy as it gets. So you just got to dig a hole and put a little fertilizer in there, drop your bulb in, cover it up, water it really well, and pretty much Mother Nature takes care of the rest. You'll have flowers all over next spring. And the key with planting bulbs in the fall is to make sure that you concentrate them very heavily in strategic locations. So we usually tell people not to spread the bulbs all over your yard, but pick a couple locations where you really want a focal point in your yard for spring, and then load those up. And when I say load up, we're talking 5-6 bulbs per square foot is what's going to look like Holland. And that's what looks really, really good. You want a lot of bulbs concentrated in one location to see what all those bulbs are going to do. But if they're spread out all over the place, it kind of weakens your color. It kind of dilutes the color out a little bit. And so you want clusters of heavily planted areas, and that's in the spring when they start to bloom. That's where everybody's eyes going to go when they drive past your house. They're going to go, oh, their house is so cute.
Yeah. It looks like a patchwork quilt almost, where you just have all of this color all in one area.
Yep. It just looks so much better the denser the bulbs are. And so you can take 100 tulip bulbs and plant them in 15 square feet, and that's going to look
amazing.
Really, really good. Yeah, it's going to look really, really good. You want them packed in strategic, like I said, strategic locations where your eye is going to be drawn in the spring. So something by the front porch, or in that special flower bed where there's lots of flowers there. So great time to get bulbs, and great time to get those planted as well too. So it's fall, and we're prepping gardens. I'm starting to think about which composts and a variety of materials I want to put into my garden as well too. Great time to fertilize. We got to get lawns fertilized as well too, and box elder bugs are popping up all over the place. So if you've got box elder bugs, call in. We'll tell you how to take care of those. They were crawling all over my barn yesterday, just absolutely covered.
But the good news is the grasshoppers
are dying off. Yeah,
it's so good to see those.
Unfortunately,
dying.
They are laying eggs all over the place.
True.
So I'm afraid we're going to have grasshoppers like crazy next year. So there's some things we can do to hopefully prevent them from getting out of control next year if we start a little bit earlier. So we'll think about that as well too.
All right. Well, let's head out to the phones. We have Tammy, who is joining us first on the line this morning. Tammy, welcome to the Garden Guide this morning.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, how are you, Tammy?
I am great. How are you doing?
Doing wonderful.
So I am starting to do my fall cleanup, and I want to ask you, I've got several Zone 5 plants that do not always make the winter, and my favorite is the hummingbird mint. I am wondering, is there something that I can do to winter them over better?
Absolutely.
So that they'll for sure come back?
Yep. So the best thing you can do is use a little bit of magnesium sulfate and potash on them, which is our rose cocktail.
So same as the roses.
Yep, use the rose cocktail on them. That will help. And then mulch them. Mulch them with a light mulch so that it has a little bit of protection. And then as soon as we get snow, make sure and pile snow on top of it, because the snow will insulate them. and protect them from the cold. Yeah, so if we get 4 inches of snow, take your snowblower and blow snow right on top of it. So there's more on top of those, because the snow creates a nice insulation, especially if you have a mulch on top of them as well too.
Okay, by you saying that makes me wonder if maybe I need to plant them in areas where we pile the snow.
Wouldn't hurt, because if you get a foot or a foot and a half of snow on top of the mulch that you put down, then they have a couple layers of insulation, and it's the drastic changes in temperature that really do the damage to them. So it's when we go from nice and warm to really cold, and then back to nice and warm, and then really cold again. That's what does all the damage. And so a lot of the trees that were damaged this year in the wintertime was because we had great weather in January. We had a lot of snow, but we had great weather. And then the first part of February, it just went sub-zero for a week and a half. And some of those plants were starting to move. They were starting to think spring's coming. And we got that cold temperature, and it just killed branches on trees and killed all kinds of stuff. Yeah. So we want to protect those from the drastic changes in temperature.
Okay, I've got a few plants that I have in flower pots that I'd like to save. One of them I think is a zone 6 or maybe even a zone 7.
Yeah.
Is there any way I can just put that in the garage, and will it survive, or how can I winter over things in pots?
You sure can. So you could bring those into the garage. You would want to kind of let them go dormant, but you'll want to water about every 2 or 3 weeks to make sure they have water, because if you don't water them through the winter time, they will just get too dry, and they'll dry up and die. And so occasional watering, put a reminder in your phone so you don't forget, or on the calendar or whatever, and make sure and water every 2 to 3 weeks. But you could put them into an insulated garage, and that would really make a big difference.
Okay, so and should I cut them down or should I not cut them down?
Prune them back a little bit, but the more you leave them, they kind of die back out on the tips. It maintains the strength for the plant, and so I wouldn't do too much pruning until spring.
Okay.
Yeah.
So leave as much as I can.
Yep, you got it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mark. That
You're welcome.
will sure help me.
Thanks so much for calling this morning, Tammy. Have a great weekend.
All right, we have Charles who's joining us on the line, so let's stay on the phone lines. Charles, welcome to the show. Thanks for holding this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for being there for us. I have my sweet potato vines, and on many of them, I've placed them around my property in large containers, like 5-gallon buckets.
Yes.
With holes in the bottom and drainable. And they're doing real well. And, of course, now the frost is going to be coming shortly to wipe out my planter boxes that are filled with them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones I'm bringing in are crowded in their container. Is it worthwhile to reach in there and separate them? Because I know they probably have this huge sweet potato root.
Yeah, sometimes.
Or just let them stay crowded and feed them well.
Yeah, I would probably keep them crowded and feed them well, because if you start digging them up, you're gonna find a lot of tubers, and they are gonna end up breaking, and they're gonna be hard to separate. So there's a couple options. So you just keep them intact and bring them inside and try and baby them a little bit, and those you could probably trim back because they are excessively long right now.
Yeah.
But you could also try and do some cuttings and start some for next year, and have some smaller ones that might be easier to handle if you don't have a lot of space.
How do you do cutting?
So with the cuttings, you can just cut the leaves off with a little bit of stem, and then you can root the stems. And I've got a cloning system at the store that uses water, and it's got a root stimulator in there, and then they'll root, and you could actually root the plants and have new ones going. But you got to have a place for them for 4 months.
I do.
Yeah,
I do. I keep them inside next to a sunny window.
Yeah, so you could do a few cuttings if you wanted to as well. We can show you how to do that at the store. It's fairly easy, but it all of a sudden you're going to have sweet potato plants everywhere. So.
Yeah. Oh, hey, well, they're beautiful. They're very easy.
They are.
And then I turn around and I always just leave the bulbs in the ground. So I look like the greatest gardener in the world, but I'm not. I got my sweet potato vines in the summer, and then my tulips come up I just leave them in. They
Sure.
just show up right after the snow.
Which is great.
Everybody goes, "Oh, how great!" And I go, "Yeah, I'm really good."
I love it, Charles. So
it's the easiest thing to take care of in the world.
If you know the secrets, everybody thinks you're an amazing gardener. So.
Yeah, I'm lazy, and I wear my Master Gardener hat around a lot, and they go, "Whoa!"
Awesome.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling this morning, Charles. You have a wonderful weekend.
It's one of the reasons why
All right, bye-bye.
I plant zucchini.
Yeah.
Because everybody thinks, you're just an amazing gardener.
Producing like crazy.
Yeah. No, it's just the fact that anybody can grow zucchini.
Super easy.
Yeah. So we've got Ron and Chris holding on the line. We're going to take a quick break here at the bottom of the hour for our news break, and then we're going to be right back. Phone lines are open, 753-5868 or 1-800-369-5868 to answer your questions here on The Garden Guide on KVNU.
Bill Walter, KBNU News. Law enforcement has determined that a set of bones found by a construction crew in Providence were likely from an early pioneer settler. The skeletal remains were unearthed on Tuesday. Cache County Sheriff's Lieutenant Mickelshan Barshi said a group of employees from LeGrand Johnson Construction Company were replacing fire hydrant lines on the south end of Providence when they found the bones. They were about 4 feet below ground. Deputies were called to the scene and sealed off the area, taking several photographs of the remains. The pictures were sent to the state forensic lab, where they were confirmed to be human. Barshi explained that a forensic anthropologist visited the construction site the next day and performed several tests on the bones. They were determined to be from the pioneer era and appeared to be intentionally buried at the site. Glenn Beck, a conservative talk show host and close friend of former Operation Underground Railroad founder Tim Ballard, spoke out against his longtime friend on his Wednesday podcast, calling the accusations against him pretty ugly. Beck wanted facts, and because he is not an investigative reporter and was too close to the story, he tasked Blaze Media, his own media company, and its journalists to investigate. After listening to the interviews himself, Beck said he began to feel betrayed.
These women are not only terrified because, quite honestly, Tim Ballard is known as a good guy. He is liked by a lot of people. He was a friend of mine.
Tim Ballard has denied all accusations against him. Pretty nice weather, sunny, low 70s during the day, lows at night near 40. For the latest news, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
From ABC Sports, I'm Brian Clark. The college football weekend got underway with Nebraska visiting Illinois. Anthony Grant put the Cornhuskers ahead 10-0 midway through the second quarter with a rushing touchdown. Nebraska recovered the kickoff, and just 10 seconds later...
Here's the snap back. Zone read. Take the handoff. Harburg's got it. 20, 15, 10, 5, dives, touchdown, Nebraska.
On the Cornhuskers radio network, as quarterback Heinrich Harburg took it himself 25 yards for the score en route to a 20-7 win over the Illini. Elsewhere in Ivy League play, Harvard rolled past Cornell. Oklahoma State beat Kansas State. This afternoon, one of the marquee matchups comes with the Red River rivalry between number 3 Texas and number 12 Oklahoma. Later today, top-ranked Georgia hosts number 20 Kentucky. It's number 2 Michigan visiting Minnesota. Number 25 Louisville will host number 10 Notre Dame. This is ABC Sports.
This is Dr. Red, chiropractic physician with Red River Health and Wellness. Have you been suffering and you can't find any answers?
I actually suffer from depression and anxiety. I also have had severe IBS problems. I actually had gone into a different doctor of mine because I thought maybe I was starting to go through menopause and had problems sleeping, and I wasn't resting well, and just everything felt wrong.
Red River Health and Wellness can help.
I am now back at work. It's easy. I get through things effortlessly at work, and it's been a life-changing for me. I'm sleeping better at night. I have full energy all day. I don't have those slumps where I need a nap. It's been amazing. It's been a good journey for me.
Our goal is to teach you and educate you so you know how to manage your condition a lot more effectively, and you know what to do and what not to do for the rest of your life.
Schedule your appointment today at 855-55-RIVER. Red River Health and Wellness with offices in Logan, South Jordan, Springville, and St. George.
Call Red River today.
The event of the year for manufacturers in northern Utah is almost here. Attend the second annual Northern Utah Manufacturing Excellence Conference, Wednesday, October 25th. Collaborate with manufacturing leaders and resource experts. Enjoy lunch and a keynote from Ken Snyder, Shingo Institute Executive Director. When we strengthen Utah manufacturing, we strengthen Utah's economy. Register today for the NUME Conference on October 25th from 8 to 1 at the Cache County Event Center at cashchamber.com.
The expert with a green thumb. It's the Garden Guide on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
And welcome back to the show on this beautiful Saturday morning, looking out across the valley and seeing the sun hit the Wellsvilles, and right now they just are exploding with that deep red color.
It's like
Mark.
They're on fire.
It is. Just gorgeous. And as I mentioned, driving up through First, Second, Third Dam, up through Logan Canyon yesterday afternoon, just amazing the color up there right now.
Yeah. Great time of year. Weather's beautiful, warm, nice to be outside. Doesn't get any better.
Really, really nice. So we're going to go right back out to the phone lines. Phone lines are open at 753-5868 or 1-800-369-5868. Ron has been holding on the line from Clifton. Ron, welcome to the show.
Thanks. I've got a question about a plastic grow water box thing called Growasis water box out of the Netherlands. I guess it's been around for about 13 years. Do you have experience with those?
I have never used one of those, Ron, so I'm unfamiliar with it. So,
okay. I'll sneak in a follow-up question and then a comment.
That sounds good.
I have a tiny part of a Ashmead's kernel apple tree that's surviving. Have you ever tasted those? Do you have experience with them? I guess the variety is maybe about 200 years old out of England or something like that.
That's a really old variety. I've heard about it, but I've never tasted it. So that's another unusual variety. So.
And then my last comment is that I failed to provide any flavor top nectarines to somebody special this year because my tree is just about to the end of its life.
Darn it. It happens.
Yeah.
I've been provided with plenty of nectarines from a couple of my friends this year, so they have done a great job, and your nectarines are always welcome at my house, Ron.
And are the Arctic J nectarines still on the top of your list?
Oh, the Arctic J, absolutely. Unfortunately, my nectarines did not produce any flowers this year, not a single flower, but they made it through the winter, and they are doing spectacularly well. And so are my newly planted peach trees, so they're doing great. So what I'm going to do is this month, as the leaves start falling off, which will be pretty soon, I'm going to make sure and spray them with a fungicide to prevent them from getting shot hole fungus and a couple other diseases for next year. So it's a really, really good time to think about spraying your trees for disease control and also for blister mites for apples and pears if you've been dealing with blister mites. So the timing for that's going to be here in about a week to 2 weeks for prevention for next year. So kind of critical.
Okay, thanks so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks for calling. I will look up the Growasis water boxes and check them out. That's not something I have seen. So
that's Oasis with a GR in front of it.
Yep, GR Oasis. Yep, I just pulled them up on Wikipedia, and they look very interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Ron, thank you for the call. Let's go out to the phone lines. We have Chris joining us on the line from Logan. Chris, welcome to the show this morning.
Hi, I just love your show.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, so I have a question. How deep do you plant the daffodils? And is it from the bottom or from the peak, the top part?
I dig my holes about 6 to 8 inches deep so that the tips of the bulbs are at least 4 to 6 inches below the soil.
Oh, okay.
Yep, that should work great. Yeah, great time to plant the daffodils. Deer won't eat the daffodils, thank goodness. I got up the other day and went to work, and I had 9 deer in my backyard. So,
oh boy,
yeah, we don't have too many tulips at my house.
They were enjoying the remnants of your garden.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I usually spray with that deer stopper, but I didn't get to it fast enough, and they ate all of mine.
Yeah, the deer stopper does a really great job. We've just had to kind of fence or net things if we want to keep the deer off of them, because they just will eat everything in the yard. It's always a free buffet at Anderson's. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, I sprayed it, and then they grow. So you have to keep spraying.
Yep, you gotta.
And I didn't keep spraying.
Yep, exactly. Yep, the parts that are unprotected, you got to keep going. So.
And they just clip the tops off. They just go. Phew.
Yeah, they just nibble a little bit of everything just to ruin it. Is what I've found. So that's how it works.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
You're so welcome. Thanks for calling this morning, Chris. You have a wonderful weekend.
You too. Bye.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Okay, and that frees up a few phone lines, 753-5868 or 1-800-369-5868. Nadine has been holding on the line from Young Ward. Nadine, you're up next on the Garden Guide. Good morning.
Good morning. I have a question about geraniums, and I think you were talking about geraniums earlier, but I missed it. So I want to bring some geraniums in,
yes.
And I know you keep them in pots in the garage, but my garage is cold. So they would freeze in there in the pots. Would they be okay?
The geraniums can handle a little bit of cold temperatures, and it won't damage them. But if you start getting into the low 20s or into the teens, it would kill them. And so there's a couple different things you can do with the geraniums. And I've got quite a few growers, quite a few homeowners that come in the store, and we've taught them how to do this, and it works really pretty well. It's not 100% effective, but enough to carry quite a few over to reuse again the next year. So you can bring them in the pots into your garage or into a storage location, but you got to make sure it's not too cold in there. And you will probably want to water every 2 to 3 weeks, so there's a little bit of soil moisture, but you really just kind of want to let them go dormant. And at that point, I don't trim the plants back. I just leave them so that the strength that's in the leaves will go back into the stem and into the root system, and it will store that for next year. And so I won't do any trimming until spring, when it's time to just prune them all the way back, and then they'll put all new growth back out at that point. But make sure you keep them in a spot that won't really go below freezing consistently through the winter time, because it'll kill them.
Okay.
The other way to do it is to dig them up and keep the plants intact and try and not damage the root system as much as possible, and then hang them up down in your basement upside down. And so you just leave all the foliage on, you take them out of the soil, shake the excess soil off, and then hang them upside down in the basement where it's cool and dry, and they will just kind of go dormant down there in the basement. And then in the spring, you can plant them back up. Usually I will hydrate the roots back up, put them in a little bit of root stimulator. Kangaroo roots would be great. And let them soak water up, probably in March or so. Let them just soak water for 24 to 48 hours, and then replant them, and then trim all the dead stuff off. Just prune all the dead leaves and stems back until you just have basically a little stick of geranium, and then all of a sudden it'll just burst out with all kinds of new foliage, and then you'll get flowers as well too. So we've been successful both ways.
Are you saying that you can plant them as early as March?
You start them indoors in late March, early April, so that they can get rooted, and then by the 1st of May they're ready to go outside again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I need to know. Okay, that sounds great. Thank you for your help.
You are so welcome. Thanks for calling this morning, Nadine.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, phone lines are completely
now open. Yeah,
753-5868.
A flurry of calls.
Yeah, they always come in waves.
Yeah,
we always talk about that.
We like a flurry of calls.
Yes, so you can call in 1-800-369-5868 or 753-5868. We were talking about flower beds, and I think that's one thing that a lot of us are focusing on right now. And I was noticing our roses, we're starting to get some small little gnats that are just kind of concentrating on those roses.
Interesting.
And they almost look like small little fruit flies.
Yeah. Yeah, could be. Fungus gnats, definitely, and it's that time of year where we've got some soil moisture and perfect conditions for that. We're starting to see a lot of insects showing up this fall. Aphids as well, too. Woolly aphids have been hitting the apple trees. So if you've got a little outbreak of insects that have started up, whether they're fungus gnats or aphids or on your roses or on your fruit trees, there's some great options for getting those under control. Organic options would be like Triple Action, which has the pyrethrum and neem oil in it. That would be an excellent option to start off with to get some of these insects under control. 7. We've been using 7 and Sayonara all summer long for the grasshoppers. Permethrin as well, too. Very safe to use on those plants, and especially on your roses would be a great way to get those under control. And, of course, box elder bugs are popping up like crazy all over the place. So for box elder bugs, we are using Bug Blaster. Seismic is my personal favorite because it's got that long residual, and it works on spiders and ants and earwigs and the grasshoppers and the box elder bugs. You get a nice 2 to 3 month residual out of the Seismic, and it's microencapsulated, so it's really, really safe to use inside. So a lot of really great insecticide options available for various insects that are popping up right now. Seeing a lot of wasps still. So wasps and spiders and ants and earwigs are starting to come inside because they're feeling the weather change. And man, the box elder bugs just popped up like crazy the other day.
Yeah, and we'll talk about grasshoppers, too, coming up in a few minutes because, as many grasshoppers as we had, guarantee there's going to be eggs
Gotta do
everywhere.
something to prevent those from coming right back again.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go back out to the phone lines. We have Gordon joining us on the line. Good morning, Gordon.
Hi, how are we doing this morning?
Doing great, Gordon. How about you?
We're good.
Good.
Although we're concerned out this direction. Any idea what's happening with all the big, huge pine trees? We've got 2 down in our park, great big old pines that are just hammered. And my son has one, and I don't know how to recognize bark beetle, but the one over at my son's looks like it could be bark beetle. How do you tell? What do you do? And these are big old, huge big blue spruces, and they just look awful.
Yeah. Bark beetles, you will see damage on the trunk. You'll see lots of sap that has run down the trunk and has come out the holes. So if you're not seeing that, it's probably not bark beetles. We did have a couple really stressful, dry years, and there's some continual damage that happened to trees with that. And then it's been really, really wet this year. And so I've actually seen a lot of damage this year from too wet of conditions for the pines and the spruce because they've been too soggy. And so that has been problematic. If they're in an area where the soil doesn't drain very well and they just are standing in water, it will rot some of the roots off and cause some problems as well, too. So without seeing them, I can't tell you for sure, but usually it's an environmental issue. And when they're stressed like that, and they're not picking up the water and they're not picking up the nutrient that they need, they will steal it from some of the older growth. And so you'll see the older growth will start to go a paler color, but the new growth looks really good on it. So you may want to take a closer look to the trees and see if there's like really nice new growth out on the very extremity of the tips. And if you've got good new growth, but all the old growth has fallen off, then it's probably a micronutrient deficiency or too much water or not enough water for the last couple of years and then too much water. I mean, it's
that could easily. We've got a layer of clay down under our soil in Newton, and so if with the heavy rain, they may have been just basically sitting in a puddle.
Sometimes it'll trap it, but if you see the tree stealing the nutrient from the older needles, and then you'll see like really nice new growth out on the extremities, but then you'll see a lot of needles just falling off on the interior of the tree as well too. So they're mining nutrient from older growth, and that can be problematic too. So
that sounds the more likely case because of the way I have to go look closer at the ones down in the park. My concern was there's one that looks nice and healthy, and these other 2 great big old trees that look really rough. And I was I thought if we had bark beetle, we needed to do something.
Yeah,
take precautions. But
yeah, you'll see some damage on the trunk if it's bark beetle, and if it is bark beetle, then we can treat that with imidacloprid. So we can do a drench on that, and that'll work really well.
Oh,
what I would recommend though is that we get a nice slow release fertilizer on that next spring with a lot of micronutrients in it. So we want something with a full micronutrient package, and then the kangaroo roots would be great to encourage some new fine root hairs, because that's going to encourage lots and lots of fine root network to be constructed, and that's going to help the trees pick up the water and the nutrient better. And so usually we'll recommend a combination of like a tree feast, a little bit of iron combo chelate, mix it in with the kangaroo roots or the boomerang, and hit it with that for a couple times first thing in the spring and maybe once in the summer, and you'll see your trees just really start to recover.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go down and take a look at those and see if it looks like bark beetle or now that you say that with the new growth on the tips, it almost seems like I saw that when I went by the other day.
Yeah. So
I'll go take a
worth checking into. Yeah, for sure, Gordon.
Okay. Well, a mixed blessing with the weird weather was that we've only seen a handful of wasps this year.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Unbelievable. I just seemed that one cold snap seemed to have frozen out all the ones that usually lay over for the winter time.
Oh, that's good. We had multiple nests at my house that we had to take care of this year. They were just going to town. Yeah, they were going crazy. So, yeah.
It's been a strange year.
It has for sure. And I'm not ready. I'm not ready for winter again. We'll say that. We've been avoiding the S word and have been hesitant to say the W word also. So.
Exactly, and we're scrambling to get all our fall stuff done so that when it does start to the S word, we'll be okay. So
Yep. Thanks.
It's been a strange year.
Yeah. We'll take it though. I'll take it. Thanks, Gordon.
All right. Okay. Talk to you later.
Have a good one.
All right, let's go right back out to the phone lines. We have Mike joining us on the line from Logan. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hi. Hey, just a quick question. As we have the potatoes coming in from Idaho,
yes,
we used to get a lot of them in burlap, and I'm just wondering what's the best way to store them, in a cellar, maybe temperature-wise. Some of those potatoes are coming in sacks.
Yes.
Is it better to put them in a burlap, or how do we preserve those the best we can for long-time winter use?
Yeah, a little breathability is good. So either a burlap sack, some of the mesh bags are really good too. The paper sacks tend to hold the moisture a little bit more, and I've found them to start to deteriorate a little bit faster that way. And so good air circulation, cool location. The potatoes can handle a little bit more humidity as well too. So a little bit higher humidity than where you would keep like your squash or your onions, but good air circulation's critical. So yeah, it works well.
Perfect.
Thank you. You're welcome. And I do have burlap bags and the onion mesh bags at the store. They're like $1 a piece, so they're very, very inexpensive. So
okay, great. Right. Perfect.
Super.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Have a good weekend.
All right. Bye.
All right, and we have Jane now joining us on the line from North Logan. Jane, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hi, how are you?
We're doing great, Jane. Good morning.
Okay, I'm calling about some beautiful big begonias that I have in a pot by the front door. It's pretty protected. They're the large salmon. They have big green leaves, and I'm wondering what I should do with them for the winter. Should I try to move the pot into the garage or dig them up or what? Can I expect them to come back next year?
They will definitely come back next year if we treat them properly. And the begonias will do better if you dig them up and store them for the winter time. So usually right before we get a hard frost, I will dig up the begonia bulbs. We're kind of in that time range right now. If you could, whenever you have time, go ahead and do it. It'll be fine. Trim the tops off so that there's about 3 or 4 inches of stem left on the begonia bulbs. And then you can place them in a cardboard box or even a plastic tote or a container of some sort. And we're going to layer it with, you could do peat moss, you could do a little bit of coconut coir, you could do some wood shavings. We just need something that's going to kind of wick the excess moisture off the bulbs, but still retain a little bit of moisture so that they don't dry out through the winter time. And then place those down the basement, cool, dry location. The cooler, the better, as long as it doesn't freeze, and dry is good. And those begonia bulbs the stem will kind of feed the bulb back through the winter time. It'll be all dry and crispy in the spring. You can just break that off. And at that point, depending on how large the bulbs are, you can just plant them back the way they are, or you can even divide them once they start to sprout a little bit. You can see eyes. You can actually cut the bulbs and divide them into pieces, and then plant them that way. So that's the best way to keep the bulbs for next year.
Okay, thank you.
You are so welcome,
That
Jane.
sounds very helpful.
Yeah, and your salmon begonias sound spectacular. They sound great.
Yes, I bought them from you sometime last spring. Can't remember when.
Super.
Okay.
That's great.
Really enjoy them. They're gorgeous.
Oh, they are so pretty. Yeah. Glad they've been great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jane. Have a great week. Yep. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All right, Christine is joining us on the line from Smithfield. Christine, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good. I have two questions. My first one is, I missed this morning. Did you guys talk about not banana, but the spaghetti squash?
Oh, the spaghetti. We talked about harvesting and storing squashes, but not about spaghetti specifically. So.
Well, it's kind of a yellowish
Yes.
color.
Should be a
And the
nice
vine-
kind of a canary yellow.
Oh, so they might. My dogs are barking. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
The vine has got that mold and is dying. I sprayed it a couple times, but it's dying, so they would be okay to go cut.
Yep.
And then my daughter lives in West Bountiful, and she's going to take them. So how do I tell her to store them?
Yeah. So
There's an apartment.
I harvested all my squash this week because my vines were all dying down because they got beat up from the hail a month ago, and so
Yeah,
we've kind of let
we
them
didn't
go.
get it.
Yeah, we kind of let them go, but now's a really good time to harvest those. So trim them so there's 2 or 3 inches of stem left on the fruit, and then gently gather those up. You can put them in boxes or a crate or whatever, and then you'll want to put them in a warm, dry location for 3 to 4 to 6 weeks. Depends on where you're at, but we want to keep them in a warm, dry, shaded location where the sun's not shining right on them, and then they'll develop that nice hard outer wrapper skin, and they might even mature a little bit more and get a deeper yellow color to them. And then at that
So
point, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I could put them in my basement.
Yeah. And then after they've been in the cool, dry, or the warm, dry location, I like to put them in the shed or in the barn or somewhere where it's kind of warm and dry. And then after that 4 week period, then I'll put them down in the basement where it's cool and dry, and then we'll just let them store there for the winter time. So.
Okay. And then I was also wondering, the grass that we don't like, that I don't like, that I want to kill. Is it still a good time to kill it?
Oh,
Spray it?
the tall fescue or the pasture grass that's snuck into
Whatever.
your lawn. Now's a good
over the top.
Yeah, now's a good time to spray and kill grass and weeds. So a very, very effective time to control weeds, especially in the turf and around the yard as well too. So very effective.
In the garden patch or the flower patch.
Yes. The over the top would work great, but get it as soon as possible because the weather can change quickly.
Oh, and in Cache Valley? No, I don't do that.
So take advantage of the great weather we've got right now. So.
Okay, well, I will go harvest them, put them in a box, and I don't know where I'm going to put them because I don't have a garage.
Yeah.
And go from there.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a good weekend.
You too. Thanks, Christine.
And that actually brings us to the last call. We had Jim who called us in from Perry, and he was asking, what's the best way to spray for morning glory? Because he had heard that fall's right now a great time to treat it. What is the best product to use?
So fall is when the weeds are recognizing that winter's coming and they're starting to store energy and strength down into their root system. And so when you use an herbicide on, say, your lawn, trying to get rid of dandelions and clover and mallow and thistle and morning glory, they will absorb that herbicide thinking it's fertilizer and run it down the root system. It kills the root system out. So there's a couple really great options for morning glory. The weed-free zone from Fertilome, amazing on morning glory. Really does a great job on the morning glory. And I also really have had like spectacular results with Spurge Power. Spurge Power is a little bit stronger than the Weed Free Zone. It takes a little longer, but it's super effective. The key right now is to use a little bit of a surfactant with it, so a spreader sticker or a herbicide enhancer to help it be absorbed, and then it will help spread it all the way through the plant down the root system, so it'll be super effective for you. So Weed Free Zone or Spurge Power plus a surfactant with it, and you're going to take care of 98% of the weeds in your yard right now, and you'll start next spring with no weeds at all. It'll be perfect.
So a good weed-free zone.
Yep.
Good spreader sticker. And then you'll be able to take out those roots.
And if you use a spreader sticker, it's rain fast in about an hour. And so if it starts to rain after that, it's still going to work like crazy. Yeah, it's going to do a really good job. So
okay. Well, quite a show, Mark.
Yeah, lots of calls. We had 10 callers.
Yeah,
love it.
Busy show. Yeah. And don't forget, cash and carry sale going on right now.
Bulbs are in, garlic. Okay. And pumpkins are on sale, too. 39 cents a pound on the pumpkins. So
so join us next week for the Garden Guide here on KVNU.
The home for Utah State Aggie fans. KVNU Logan, 102 FM, 610 AM. Covering Aggie football like no one else.